And British troops had been fighting for days and days of this fighting, and there was no relief. They hadn't had rest. They hadn't had more troops come in to take their place so that they could, take a breather. I mean, it was constant battle. Not only that, these British troops were outnumbered. So a reason being why they probably couldn't stop fighting, they were just barely hanging on to stay alive. And over the days during this particular battle, the British had lost so many guns and supplies, but also they had lost many men, friends, husbands. They had lost too many. Things were looking grim, and defeat, it was almost certain. The fight was going on both sides heavily until it wasn't. There was a sudden halt on both sides, and the firing stopped. The British troops stood there in awe as they looked up, and it is said that they saw 4 to 5 wonderful beings. They were much bigger than men, and they were standing in between them, the British troops, and the Germans. The beings wore white robes, they were bareheaded, and they looked like they were floating instead of standing there in the middle. The beings, angels if you will, it's what I think they were, but they had their backs to the British and they were facing the Germans with their arms outstretched towards the Germans. And it is said, Captain Hayward says, that the German cavalry's horses, they just got spooked all of a sudden, and they started running every which way. There was another battle that Hayward speaks about, and it was still World War I, and it was another situation for the British where things just looked terribly hopeless. The British soldiers, they were surrounded on all sides by German troops. Heavy fire was going on both sides, and Captain Hayward says again, it was in an instant where the gunfire just all of a sudden stops.